Hello, lovelies. I am so sorry I missed posting yesterday, but I was busy. Anywho, let's get right into the story today. I was 9 when my parents shoved me into the back of that horrid Jeep. I was 9 when the people that I thought loved me gave me away without remorse or a second thought. I screamed and cried and begged and pleaded to go home. But my words fell on deaf ears. I can still remember how my parents smiled as the statue of a man whisked me away. They looked relieved, as if a burden had been lifted off of their shoulders. I can clearly visualize the vehicle I was in. Unfortunately, I also remember how they put a bag over my head and pushed a needle into my arm. Getting drugged is one of the worst feelings in the world. I felt so helpless, and I vaguely remember hearing one of them say, "Damn, this one is young. I wonder how much debt his folks are in." The last thing I remember before succumbing to whatever they put in my system was hearing the sound of the car door slamming shut. After what felt like an eternity, I woke up in a cold and colorless room. 3 adults came in and sat down across from me. The first of them, a woman, began to speak. "Hello, my name is Dr. Rebecca Moon. To the right of me is Dr. Daniel Stevens, and to the left of me is Dr. Catherine Rosswood." The doctor smiled at me as if trying to provide some sort of comfort. Dr. Stevens began speaking after a few moments of silence. "I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I need you to answer them to the best of your ability." "I can try," I responded tearfully. "How old are you?" "I'm 9 years old." "Where are you from?" "Atlanta, Georgia." "What's your name?" "Riverly Banks." He asked more questions that I couldn't answer due to the fact that I couldn't understand them. After he finished questioning me, he nodded to the others and they all stood up and then left. About 3 minutes after the doctors left, another woman came in and told me to follow her. I did as I was told and followed her. She led me to a small room that was furnished with a small bed and a bookshelf that was lined with books of varying genres. And a small bathroom was attached to it. She gave me a pair of scrubs and told me to get cleaned up and then go to the furthest room down the hall to the right. Following their instructions, I enter the room and I see 7 other people who have been uprooted from their daily lives. The sound of water rushing in my ears despite being in a waterless, airtight room. The other subjects seemed to be much older than I was. The oldest, male, had to be at least 50 or so. 2 of the others, female, looked to be at most 40, and the last 4 looked to be at least late 20s, early 30s. Although we had our differences, there was one thing we had in common. We were all in hell. I never did learn the name of the subjects, not that it really mattered at the time. I never learned their names because they all died before I could even ask them. I could never ask them before they entered the room. When I say they, I mean the reptilian monstrosities that entered the cold, metallic room. I was taken by fear and disgust. These creatures, when reptilian in nature with frayed mouths that opened like flaps of a cardboard box. They began to speak in a garbled, slurring, hoarse version of English. From what I can remember, they said, "You have been chosen to be a part of an experiment that showcases how abilities affect your kind." The 8 of us stood in shock after hearing their words. The oldest woman in the room began to scream and plead to be released. She was quickly silenced by one of the monstrosities piercing her throat with one of its sickle-like talons. "Any more complaints?" the largest of the 3 creatures asked in its mangled way. None of us answered. We stared in silence as the woman laid in a pool of her own blood. My memory begins to haze here, so please bear with me. The monstrosities took our silence as agreement and took the liberty of dividing us into groups. 2 to one of the creatures, 2 to the other, and 3 to the last of them. From that point forward, all I remember is blood. So much blood and screaming. Those monstrosities, whatever they were, tortured us in so many ways that I would need weeks to describe them all. And that, lovelies, is the end of our